someone who's sweeter, more feminine, more humble, more grounded, more balanced, more stable, and generally just looks more appealing to look at barefoot than in open-toed sandals. In a previous video, I shared with you one of my secrets for determining a woman's personality by looking at a certain feature of her feet. And in this video, I'm always looking out for your best interest, especially if you're moving to this side of the world or just visiting. So today I'm going to share with you another feature that I find helpful in determining the type that I'm interested in. And this one isn't based on ancient Chinese wisdom as the other one was, but it's something that I found that is preferable for me. So first, before I tell you what that is, let me share why I notice these things and why other guys may not notice these things. First, I think other guys may notice these things, but for them it's not a deal breaker or a deal maker. I think other guys may notice these things, but they put it all in a package and they don't really single out any one particular item as being noteworthy. I think other guys are still operating as they might have been, or at least as I was operating back in elementary school or high school, where you're in scarcity mode, where you're so thankful that a girl is interested in you that you tend to overlook a lot of things, including a lot of red flags about her personality. So especially in the West, where there's so much rejection that you have to encounter, that a lot of guys, the minute they find someone who is open to their advances, everything else goes out the window, and they're not sticking to any standards or any criteria or any non-negotiables. And now for me, the reason I focus on these things, these physical attributes, ever since I was about 7 years old, I started drawing. I was drawing comic books, and in fact I created my own line, my own little universe of comic book heroes. I was influenced by artists like Kurt Swan, who drew Superman, fantasy artists like Boris Vallejo. Other people may be familiar with Frank Frazetta, Neil Adams, but my favorite was the John Byrne, Terry Austin crew who did the Uncanny X-Men. They had a very realistic style, and anyone who draws superheroes or any sort of graphic art will know that if you're drawing certain features, there are certain ways that you will draw your superhero, your main character, and there's certain proportionality that you will incorporate into those characters. So whether you choose to incorporate that sense of aesthetics into your dating life and into your choice of partners is entirely up to you, and I've done that. So that's why I focus on those things. So with that said, the thing that I focus on is something that I thought I called the Asian calf. But when I looked it up online, it turns out that I'm not the first to notice this or comment on this. And there are a couple of videos on the internet, on YouTube, that talk about the Asian calf. And what I'm referring to, I'll show pictures on the screen, is the fact that if you're drawing someone's leg and you're at the thigh, then you come to the knee, and then after the knee there's a slight bulge, slight curve, a swell where the calf is, and then it tapers down to the ankle. That swell, that curve, that's the Asian calf, or that's the hourglass calf, whatever you want to call it. And that to me is a proportional, well-balanced calf that I find most attractive. And I found that it's associated with someone, and listen to the words I choose, someone who's sweeter, more feminine, more humble, more grounded, more balanced, more stable, and generally just looks more appealing to look at barefoot than in open-toed sandals. And so that's something that I look for and insist on. I'm gonna say it's high up there. May not be a deal breaker, but if I had a choice and a preference, obviously I'd choose the horse with the Asian calf. Let me give you some examples. You're not looking for muscular calves. There's a big difference. You're not looking for muscles, because muscles are something that someone generally works on either by trekking or bicycling, and it's usually a compensation for skinny calves. All right, so you don't want muscular calves, though those also may be pleasing to look at. Those are not the natural plump hourglass calves. All right, and you also don't want this. You also don't want this, and you also don't want this. What you want are a naturally plump Asian calves, and what a lot of Asian girls and guys will tell you is that they have these calves naturally. It's a genetic predisposition, and they don't have to work at it. They don't have to train for it. They don't have to exercise for it. It's something that they're genetically predisposed for. So where do you find it? Now you can find it in Africa, you can find it in Europe, you can find it in the Middle East, I'm sure, but where you're going to find it more predominantly, guess where? In Asia, Southeast Asia, and you're going to find it among girls who are of a shorter stature. So definitely China, and you're going to find it in Vietnam as well, and that's where I found it. So the Asian calf, if you want a woman who's more humble, sweeter, more feminine, more balanced, more stable, has a lower center of gravity, and that's important for reasons I'll get into in another video. Is this something that is genetic or cultural? Is the predisposition of someone with Asian calves as a result of the Asian, or is it a result of the calf? If you read texts like the Kabbalion, for example, will say, as above, so below. If something is truthful in the spiritual realm, it's also true in the physical realm. As within, so without. Someone's physical form is often a manifestation of what's going on the inside. So I believe some of the attributes that I'll be discussing in this series, whether it's the toes or whether it's the calves or whether it's the face, and there's a whole science behind Chinese face reading where you can determine a person's personality and their future based on the shape of their face. And that's something else that I'll get into. That'll be really fascinating, how I choose women based on the shape of their heads. So we may never know the answer to that, but whether it is cultural or whether it's genetic, it exists, and you'll find it here in Asia. So I'd love to know your thoughts on that, and if you're going to make an effort to choose and insist on the Asian calf in the future. See you in the next video.